Well, good day to you. It is October the 21st, and I hope you're having either just a wonderful morning, great afternoon, spectacular evening, or just an astounding overnight. I don't know. Wherever you happen to be, I hope you're having a good day. Hope there's joy in your life, and hopefully you're finding something to laugh about today. And even if that's me, after hearing this video, if you think I'm just so nuts and totally nuts that you just want to laugh at what I have to say, then I'm fine with that too. Now, if you want to put a name with the person who you'll be laughing at, my name is Gary Willing. And if you are someone who's new to this channel, I want to welcome you to this channel. And you can stay as long as you want, come and go as you please. But if you do come back, I want to welcome you back. So if you found this information useful enough to at least come back, or informative enough to come back, hopefully you'll take it a step further. And you'll look into the description portion of these videos, and you'll check out some of those links that I provided in there, because they take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. So I always say it's best to investigate this information and to start doing it whenever you want to do it, but it's best to do that. So hopefully you'll look into it. Now, you can also join the discussion. A lot of people post their comments. They post their question in the comment section too. That's another way of doing it. Or you can email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. All right. Now, truth be told, this is my favorite part of doing these videos, is when I get to give shout outs and thank those people who have joined the discussion by commenting or posting questions or something like that, or emailing me. And Peaceful Energy, Maitreya, Timothy Tilton, and Zach Laney, I really do want to thank you guys for posting the comments and asking questions in the way that you do, and everybody else who's done it in the past, because if it wasn't for you, I would not be able to put these videos up in this way. So thank you so very much for doing it. All right, now let's get on into it. Timothy Tilton, what do you have to say? World peace? Now. Justice? Now. Let Maitreya speak? Now. It's time to start the global demand. Where's the now? You didn't put now at the end of that one. So I'll put it in there for you. It's time to start the global demand? Now. That was my pathetic attempt at trying to sound like the movie phone guy back in the day. Press 1 now. Anyway, so yeah, I have a couple different perspectives on what you had to say. Okay, now the first perspective is a realistic one. It might sound rather cynical, I guess. I don't know, because I've been talking about this information for so long and it hasn't really materialized as of yet. So what I would say to you is, in one sense, I would say, don't expect it to come this week. By this time next week, right? It might be a little longer than that, but eventually it's going to happen, But here's the other thing, okay? It wasn't a Maitreya experience or a master experience, but it was an experience that I've actually been really chewing on over the last couple of weeks, because it really opened my eyes up about life in general, okay? So I live in a town in the suburbs of Atlanta. It's Smyrna, Georgia. And a couple Saturdays ago, we had our birthday celebration here in Smyrna, where they had a bunch of festival things going on during the day. Well, anyway, on Saturday night, they were having this block party, and they were going to shoot off fireworks and so forth. And I knew about the block party because they had blocked off a street right down about a half a mile from where I live. And I drive by the street every day, so then I had to turn around and start making detours because they had started setting up something there. I didn't know really what it was, but anyway, I just knew that was what it was. Anyway, so I went to work this Saturday, early in the morning, like I typically do. Worked my whole day, didn't think much of it, was expecting to just go home and chill out all day long for the rest of the night. And my wife wanted to go to the celebration that night. And I didn't really want to go. It was cold. There were a lot of people there, and I had to get up early the next day. So I was kind of trying to talk us out of going, until she said one thing that changed my whole perspective. She said, I've heard there was a group train. I don't know much about them, she said, but I think they're performing. I said, wait, the group train? There's no way, right? So I looked online and I was like, one of my all-time favorite groups is performing right down the street from my house, right? Which I was like, yeah, we're going now. She was like, really? I said, oh yeah, I've been wanting to see Train for years. Now we're going, right? So I started the day. I did not expect to even think that I would even see one of my all-time favorite groups, Train, perform live in my town, a half a mile down the street. Never in a million years did I ever think that was going to happen, right? And that Saturday night, I am about 100 feet from Pat Monahan singing one of my favorite songs. I'm sitting there going, this is like the most incredible day. It just really just changed my whole perspective on life in general, right? And then I started thinking about Maitreya and Maitreya coming out. And I was like, this is how it's going to be. each and every one of us are going to start our day like we normally do, have all these expectations for our day based on the past, based on what we're familiar with, right? And we're going to see a gentleman on TV or on YouTube and go, that's Maitreya. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Gary was telling the truth the whole time. And I might even say that to myself, wow, all the times I saw him, I never really saw him in person, on TV. I mean, this is incredible. It's going to change our perspective on everything. And then what are you going to do, right? So, well, hopefully it'll wake you up to start some of the changes that we want, right? But that is how I think it will go. I mean, Maitreya did say through Jesus, and it was written in the Bible, that he will come like a thief in the night in an hour when you least expect it. Now, he did do just that when he came into London on July 19th, 1977, a day that I guarantee you, if you were living that day, unless something dramatic happened in your life or you had a birthday on that day, you don't remember what you were doing on July 19th, 1977, because it's not a day that really was any note of anything going on, right? But I also think that he will enter each one of our lives individually in that same way, in an hour when we least expect it. So could it be next week? It could be, so I got to keep it open like that too, now that I've had this experience where it just, I'm expecting the unexpected. Now, in the meantime, I will say this. One, if you clearly want peace, you want justice, and that's what Maitreya wants us to want, because that's the most important thing that we should be doing. Remember, again, that sharing is the only way to get there, right? But why not start talking about it with the people in your life if you haven't already, If the Spirit moves you to talk to your governmental representatives, whatever that happens to be, whether it's in Congress here in the United States or in Parliament if you're in another country or whatever like that, then by all means do it. Start talking to them about it. Start talking to people about justice now, peace now, about Maitreya now, right? Talk to them how we can accomplish that through the principle of sharing, if that's the case, right? And by doing that, at the very least, you'll be giving them a little bit of hope in a world that seems hopeless. At the outset, maybe they'll think about this, ruminate on this information, and start to do something about it too. You know what I mean? It's for each and every one of us to do something about it. But the other thing too is just, be patient. Maitreya knows what he's doing. He knows why, it's important for him not to use his name right now. And it's in order for each and every one of us to sit there and hear him on TV and listen to what he has to say and be free to choose either way. Either I agree with that, or I see that we should do something about that, or we shouldn't do anything about that because I don't agree with that. And feel free to be able to do both. Choose either one, right? And that in and of itself is why he's doing it the way that he's doing it. If Maitreya were to try to force the issue, okay, or say his name prematurely or whatever, it might actually hasten a lot of the changes that we want. But according to the masters, it would bring us right back. We would eventually go back to the very precipice that we are on right now. We will find ourselves there again at some point. If we allow ourselves to open up naturally to the problems of the world as Maitreya is, describing these problems and how to solve these problems, and awaken to that need and do something about it, then we will never go back to the precipice again. And that's why it's important to be patient. It's important to understand that this is all a part of the process. Maitreya says, all will be well, all manner of things will be well. Fear not, So they will not let us go off the precipice. We've been here before. We've survived. It ain't over till it's over, or whatever you want to, however you want to get through this difficult time of transition, right? This difficult time of uncertainty, But that's why telling people about this information can help somebody else by giving them just a little bit of hope, like it gives you perhaps or something. So I really do appreciate your comments. Every single one that you've ever commented, Timothy, I really do appreciate this one. So I'm going to give it a little love, and I pressed the little heart button there. So it's just a little tiny little heart. But what you said is true, though. Let them speak now. We need world peace now. We need justice now, right? So thank you again for that. All right. Now, guy goes by Maitreya too, says, "Hi, Gary. I've worked in the field of quantum integrative medicine, which is a futuristic model of a new age device that manage health in new and innovative ways. many of their instruments work on principles of light. For example, the BioWell, which uses photonic light imaging. Are there any texts that breaks down in detail what this new light technology will be like? I guess to my understanding, no, because that technology really hasn't been given to us yet. Okay, so you would have to find some way to get a hold of a space brother on another planet and ask him, which right now I don't think is very likely. Now, according to Ben's master, that technology was given to two governments as of right now, the United States and the Soviet Union back in the day, so Russia today. But it's not the end-all and be-all of that technology. It's just a little taste of what it will be like. And it's given our scientists and some of the engineers and things like this a lot to chew on and what to think about, anti-gravity technology, those kind of things that they're already working on. But it's still not the same technology of light that they use on their planets to power their cities, free and clean, how to transport themselves from point A to point B, whether it's on their planet or from planet to planet or off their planet to another solar system or the edge of the galaxy like they can do and all that kind of stuff. Now, the way I understand it is once Maitreya is out known for who he is, one of the first things that he's going to advocate for, that he's going to strongly recommend that humanity do, is to shut off our nuclear reactors in the way that we're processing nuclear power right now. Now, these reactors can be used in a different way that is safer, cleaner, and more stable, but yet it's more expensive for these companies. So it's because of commercialization that they're not wanting to do it this way. But the newer way of doing it that's more expensive would leave a clean, it was an isotope of water as a byproduct, not nuclear waste. So according to the masters, nuclear technology as it's produced today is more harmful to the environment, to our own health, than greenhouse gases are. As dangerous as climate change is, and as unsustainable as things are in terms of mining and stripping and cutting down trees as we're doing, the most dangerous and most harmful thing to the environment that we're doing is the way that we're processing nuclear power. So that's what he's going to advocate for first, is for us to change the way that we're doing it so it's cleaner, safer, and more, and saner, but yet a little more expensive for them to process. Now, once nations start to share the resources of the world, there will be more goodwill amongst nations. Maybe not necessarily a perfect peace, but there'll be goodwill starting to, kind of materialize and manifest itself between nations. But once the nations truly become peaceful with each other, perhaps even trust each other, way more than they're doing today, then Maitreya will ask the Space Brothers to give us the technology that they use, the same technology that they use to power their cities, to go from point A to point B within the planet and off their planet and so forth. And they'll give it to us. But not until that point, because in the wrong hands, it can be very dangerous, and we would have to be a peaceful people for them to really trust us with that technology. So I would say no. Now, the other thing, too, is because you're in medicine, this is the reason why you're bringing this up, I'm sure, is because I mentioned that it will also transform medical technology. We'll be able to regenerate organs by light. And in the future, doctors will have a better understanding of the human body. They'll have a better understanding of karma, the karma of the patient. Perhaps they'll have to work with a master directly or a very advanced disciple who knows about the law of cause and effect in that way. And they would ask them, is it acceptable for us to do this surgery and perform this and give them a new liver or new kidneys or whatever it happens to be? And then they will say yes or no based on the person's karma. Now, right now, because we don't understand karma, we don't understand the law of cause and effect and and what our health really means. We don't understand about death, so we have a tremendous fear of disease. We have a tremendous resistance to any kind of disease. We have a tremendous resistance and fear to death, of course, right? But as Maitreya starts to teach humanity about the law of cause and effect, about the law of rebirth, we'll start to lose some of that fear and have a greater understanding about why we get sick, why we have the diseases that we have, and how it's karmic related. And it might be better for us just to go through it and experience the pain for whatever reason, Now, right now, we would consider that to be inhumane for a doctor to deny any kind of treatment on a patient based on karma. They would say, oh, that's inhumane. You should get your license revoked or something like that, right? The Hippocratic Oath. Well, in time, we'll have a better understanding of that. And they won't look at it as humane or inhumane. They'll look at it as what's the divine purpose for this soul in incarnation. And the health will be based around that, But that technology is really not even in its inception right now, because, like I said, it's really dangerous. But eventually it will transform life on this planet. It will be, as Ben's master said, a huge stepping stone in the advancement of humanity when we finally start to use that technology in that way. But in the meantime, like I said, there'll be alternatives that will keep the environment going, where we won't be damaging the environment in the way that we're doing until we get the ultimate technology of the technology of light. So, but thank you very much for the question, nonetheless. All right, and then lastly, this one comes from Peaceful Energy. One thing I don't understand is why Jiddu Krishnamurti left the World Teacher Project. I must have missed some information somewhere. All right, so let me explain something about that. Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up, because we can give a little bit of history lesson about the masters and how they've been approaching humanity and working with humanity indirectly. Okay, so when eons upon eons ago, there was a continent known as Atlantis. Now, not a lot of people know about the continent of Atlantis as it really was, because there's not a lot of information written about it. Not until the masters really come out are we really going to have a better, true understanding of what life was like during the time of Atlantis. But the masters were out known for who they were at that time, teaching humanity directly. Humanity was not very advanced and became very materialistic. It was even said by one of these masters that even upon the person's death or their last breath, they were still trying to accumulate more personal wealth for themselves. That's how materialistic the people were at the time. Even more materialistic than it is today. And we're pretty materialistic, aren't we? Right? So it goes without saying, I guess. But when they retreated and went to mainly the mountain regions of the world and far away from the public eye, they were still working with humanity, but just indirectly. They still worked with the great cosmic energies that they would send into the world on a moment-to-moment basis to certain areas and remove this energy from this area and send it over to this one like they do. And it's different types of energies from the cosmos, but they were working with those energies and helping advance humanity in that way too. But their work and their guidance and mainly their teaching was indirect and only through their own disciples in the world. So there were other teachers other than just world teachers, but there was a purpose for some disciples as a world teacher. And every cosmic cycle, when our sun moves out of alignment from one constellation to another, it's said to be in a new age. Okay, so this has been going on since the sun has been around, I guess. But since the masters have left, there had to be a disciple that had that role as world teacher. Now, on the inner planes, the masters change roles around that time too, and there's a new quote-unquote world teacher for them. But that master of all the masters, which Maitreya has that role right now, work through a disciple in the world to teach humanity in that way. In the future, it will be a master. It won't be a highly advanced disciple that's ushering in a new age. So, but people like Rama, Mithra, Zoroaster, Hercules, Moses, Krishna, the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and I don't know if that's in chronological order, it doesn't really matter, but that's just a tiny list of some of these world leaders, because most of them we probably don't know about because they weren't written down in that way. And then there were also probably multiple world teachers for different parts of the world because there wasn't global communications 10,000 years ago, right? So they had to go to this group and then go to that group and talk to that one in that way. So that was actually, according to the masters, it's a law. It's a cosmic law that has this happen. And the two that were really special, because they were totally unique, one was Gautama Buddha and the other one was Jesus. When the Buddha, who was on the inner planes, worked through the Prince Gautama telepathically, it represented the first time in human history that wisdom manifested itself in perfection. Quite an extraordinary feat for humanity, as low of advanced as we were, and he became the Buddha at that time. Some 100 years later, or several hundred years later after that, when Jesus incarnated in Palestine, was a very advanced disciple, and Maitreya was in the Himalayas and overshadowed him while he was in Palestine. When he did that, love manifested itself in perfection in humanity for the first time. Quite an extraordinary feat for humanity to do. So we've had some success over the years where it's not all bad. You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing about J. Krishnamurti, and I'm getting to it, is these masters, when they retreated and went into their ancient abode, their hidden away abodes, like I said, they were still working indirectly with humanity, but at some point they knew that they would have to come back into the world. It was hoped by these masters that it would be in another 1,200 years before they were able to come back into the world, and humanity would be able to benefit from their teaching. And that was only the 1900s, the early 1900s, that they thought that this was the plan. Okay, now what happened, and this to get to your question, okay, Krishnamurti was discovered by C.W. Ledbetter and Annie Besant of the Theosophical Society. I don't know how they found him. I don't know the historical piece behind this. I don't know if a master told them that about Krishnamurti, but they found this young boy, Krishnamurti, in India. Ended up, Annie Besant adopted him, raised him as her own child, and he was being groomed by them to be the head of the Theosophical Society, from what I understand. Maitreya was overshadowing him, training him to be the world teacher for this coming age. And he talks about it in some of his books. He called it the process, and it was a process that caused Krishnamurti himself a great deal of pain, because it would cause him severe migraine headaches when Maitreya would overshadow him in that way, but that he was being trained to do that. And it was hoped at that time that he would be trained up enough to where he could be a world teacher for the age of Aquarius, just as Jesus was the world teacher for the age of Pisces. Now, here's what happened. The Allied powers, backed by the masters, defeated the Axis powers, backed by the lords of materiality or the forces of darkness. The Antichrist energy was sent out through the Axis powers, did its work, destroyed the old ways of thinking and the old ways of relating. But here's what happened, is the United States developed the nuclear bomb, and then Russia developed the nuclear bomb. And then the masters saw that if they didn't come back far sooner than they were hoping, which was 1,000 years, that humanity would eventually destroy itself. Because these masters see the future, according to Benjamin Creme, with different threads, from the likely to the extremely likely to the not so likely, and in everywhere in between. So when they look at the future, that's how they see it. And it became likely that humanity would eventually destroy itself. And so Maitreya in June of 1945 made the announcement through Alice Bailey that he himself, along with these group of masters, would have to come back into the world. And had it been left up to Krishnamurti, he would not have been able to accomplish this and save humanity from destroying itself. So Maitreya made the announcement that he would have to come back, like I said, far sooner than they were expecting. But humanity had to do three things, okay? The principle of sharing had to start to govern the minds of the world leaders, which I think happened when the United States instituted the Marshall Plan, which is what Ben's master said was the first and only time that the principle of sharing ever took place. So that gave Maitreya an indication that we were ready. The second thing was there had to be a measure of peace. Now, that peace didn't have to be perfect, but there had to be enough that would signal to Maitreya that we were headed in that direction toward peace. And then the third one, which seems, I don't even know how, I think Maitreya gave us a gimme, to be honest with you, but maybe they did do it, that the political parties in the United States and around the world had to start to clean house and clean up some of the corruption to some degree. Once humanity could do those three things, it would signal to Maitreya that humanity was ready for him to come back. And then he made the announcement. He asked Benjamin Creme. Benjamin Creme had this experience he talked about where he saw Maitreya as a vision almost, but it was real. And Maitreya asked him to make known his presence at some point, and he agreed. But also, there were 4 other disciples that were asked. I don't know if it was in the same way or a different way, because we don't know much about their history, but none of them took it up. The first one in New York didn't believe it. The second one in Geneva didn't believe it. The one in Darjeeling, according to Ben's master, at the time that he wrote all his stuff, said that he was still asleep, in quotation marks, whatever that means. And then the fourth one, which was a woman in Tokyo, started to believe that she was Maitreya, and then started to have all these followers and devotees and stuff like this. So, like I said, Ben was the only one in London. He was the one that was the disciple in London. So each one of the planetary centers was supposed to have a disciple that was going to come out and tell the world about Maitreya, and it ended up being just Benjamin Creme. So, but that's where Jiddu Krishnamurti fits into all that. And so, if you go down into the description portion, Timothy, if you haven't done this already, maybe you have. There is a link to the Krishnamurti YouTube channel. And I have to say for myself, I watch videos on there almost every day because I learn so much from him. Maitreya did say, and I'm not just saying this because, and I'm not just doing this because Maitreya said this about him. I'm saying this because my own personal experience of Krishnamurti is I'm learning a lot from him. He's just a wonderful teacher about what he's talking about in terms of intention and noticing noticing your thought and being very diligent. But what Maitreya said is he is a perfect example or a perfect disciple of Maitreya's teachings: honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. So if you watch his videos, you get a really good sense of the teachings of Maitreya. So anyway, something to think about. But yeah, he should have been the world teacher, but he didn't. Now you can also tell if you watch the Krishnamurti videos where he's in front of a large audience, he gives the same stance and looks that Ben used to give at his lecture when Maitreya overshadowed him. Almost the exact same facial expressions. It's wild. So I don't know if he was still being overshadowed by Maitreya in that way, probably. But anyway, he never talked about it, so he was very silent about it. But anyway, maybe. But like I said, very informative, very useful. If you're interested in this material or interested in the teachings of Maitreya, Krishnamurti is a good one to start to listen to and hopefully start to apply some of the teachings and see what you get from it. All right. But anyway, thank you everybody for asking questions and posting comments. I love you all. Keep joy close and hope even closer. You guys take care. Take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.